Evil. What is evil? Where did evil come from? What is evil? Did God create evil? If not, then where did it come from? Since everything that God made was good and there was no evil in it, then where did evil come from? When God looked over the entire universe in its beauty and vast glory, everything was very good. Genesis 1:31 says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good." So where did evil come from? First, let us explain what evil is. Evil is simply when you do something to harm others for a wrong motive. Evil is never the act itself, but the motive behind the act. Every single thing that God made is good, but if the motive behind an act is negative, then the act is considered evil. Not because the act itself is evil, but because the motive behind it is negative and not positive. So evil is not the act, but the motive behind it. If the motive is bad, then the act is evil. But if the motive is good, then the act can be justified. Remember that only someone with the knowledge of good and evil is capable of doing evil. A person without the knowledge of good and evil is never capable of doing evil. That is, an adult and a child can both do the same thing, but only the adult will be found guilty of evil and not the child, because the adult has the knowledge of good and evil, but the child does not. It is this knowledge of good and evil that creates an evil motive behind an action, thereby making the action evil. Children do not know good and evil, so they cannot distinguish right from wrong. For this reason, children are never considered guilty of evil. Evil has to do with the knowledge of good and evil itself and the motive that springs from that knowledge. Since the possession of the knowledge of good and evil is the basis from which evil can spring forth, what is the advantage of possessing the knowledge of good and evil in the first place? The advantage of the knowledge of good and evil is for the good, not for the evil. The knowledge of good and evil is intended to be used for the good and never for the evil. Knowledge enables the possessor to create a defined and precise motive for action, and that motive becomes the fuel that fires up the passion for the action. This is the advantage of possessing the knowledge of good and evil. Another form of evil is recorded in James 4:17. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. Pay attention to the words fails to. Failing to do the right thing that you know you should do is evil, just as doing the wrong things that you know you should not do is evil as well. The fact that you know the right way it should be, yet fail to follow that path, makes it evil. One major thing that gives chances for evil to thrive is ignorance. Ignorance is the lack of knowledge regarding the right thing to do. Ignorance can sometimes excuse someone from being considered guilty of evil. To prevent the excuse of ignorance from prevailing in judgment, Jesus declares that the message of the kingdom will be preached all around the world before the end comes, as a witness against the excuse of ignorance. Matthew 24:14 says, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." Also, Ephesians 4:18 warns against ignorance, as it can keep many in darkness and outside the will of God. They are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardness of their hearts. Since God is the one who made heaven and earth and everything in it, if we must give a definite answer to the question of who made evil, then the answer is God. This is true because God is the one who made our minds and granted us the knowledge of good and evil. It is from this same mind of ours that all manner of motives proceed. Even the scripture confirms this truth in Isaiah 45:7. "I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things." And Amos 3:6 adds, "Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord hath not done it?" It is important to know that although God made all things, including evil. God does not do evil. Psalm 92 verse 15 says, "To declare, the Lord is just, he is my rock. There is no evil in him." Finally, why is there evil at all? Why did God create the knowledge of evil and not just the knowledge of good alone? God created the knowledge of evil along with the knowledge of good because existence is established on the foundation of dualism. That is, everything must exist in two and opposite. This dual concept is the spiritual setting that keeps existence stable and balanced and maintains its stability in perfect equilibrium. It is the spiritual bond that holds existence tightly fixed on both ends. The presence of one without its opposite will tip existence off balance and bring about a collapse. That is why we have everything in two and opposites: near and far, in and out, big and small, light and darkness, male and female, left and right, up and down, and also good and evil. Since everything that God created is good and there is no evil in it, evil has its good as well. The good of evil is that evil destroys those who do evil.